But Evelyn stepped forward, still holding Emma close. "No," she said firmly, her voice strong and clear. "Everything is not fine. This child is in danger. Ask her. Listen to her. She's been crying out for help, and no one has listened, until now." The officers looked between Evelyn and Mr. Hayes. The billionaire's charm faltered under their scrutiny, while Evelyn's conviction shone like a beacon. Emma peeked up from Evelyn's shoulder, her voice soft but certain. "Please, don't let him take me." The room fell silent. The words of an innocent child carried more power than all the wealth in the world. The lead officer nodded gravely. "We'll take it from here, ma'am." Evelyn tightened her hold on Emma, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now." As the officers moved to separate Mr. Hayes from his daughter, his composure finally shattered. His face twisted with desperation, his voice rising in panic. "You can't do this. I'm Richard Hayes. I'll ruin all of you." But the officers didn't waver. His money, his status, none of it could shield him from the truth anymore. And as he was pulled back, Evelyn held Emma close, rocking her gently as the child sobbed softly into her shoulder. The monster had been exposed. And for the first time, Evelyn felt a flicker of hope that the little girl she loved like her own would finally be free. The mansion, once a symbol of wealth and power, no longer felt intimidating. With the police swarming the polished marble floors and the flashing red and blue lights cutting through the night, its grandeur seemed hollow, almost sinister. Evelyn stood with Emma in her arms, her heart still racing from the confrontation. She had never defied a man of Mr. Hayes's stature before, but now, none of that mattered. All she cared about was keeping the trembling child pressed against her safe. "Ma'am," one of the officers said softly, approaching Evelyn, "we need to speak with the girl. Can she talk to us?" Evelyn looked down at Emma, who clung tightly to her dress, refusing to let go. Her small face was buried against Evelyn's shoulder, her body shaking with silent sobs. Evelyn stroked her hair gently. "Sweetheart," she whispered, kneeling so she was at Emma's level. "The police are here to help you. They're not going to hurt you. They just need to hear the truth, so they can protect you." Emma looked up, her red, swollen eyes searching Evelyn's face. Will he go away if I tell them?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Evelyn's throat tightened. "Yes, baby. If you're brave enough to tell them what's been happening, they'll make sure he can't hurt you anymore." Emma hesitated, her little hands clutching Evelyn's fingers. Then, slowly, she gave a small nod. The officer crouched down to her height, his voice gentle. "Hi there, Emma. My name's Officer Ramirez. You don't have to be scared of me, okay? I just want to make sure you're safe." Emma sniffled, looking down at her shoes. Her lips quivered as though the words were too heavy to say. But with Evelyn's steady hand on her back, she found the courage. He comes into my room at night," Emma whispered, her voice cracking. "He says I can't tell anyone, or I'll get in trouble. But I don't want him to come anymore. I don't like it." Her confession hung in the air, heavier than any silence Evelyn had ever known. The officers exchanged grave looks, and Officer Ramirez gently nodded. "Thank you, Emma. You're very brave," he said softly. "You did the right thing." Behind them, Richard Hayes's face contorted with rage and desperation. His carefully constructed mask of power had shattered completely. He tried to step forward, but two officers blocked his path. "She's lying," he roared, his voice echoing through the grand hall. "She's just a child, she doesn't know what she's saying." Evelyn put those words in her mouth. "This is all a trick to destroy me." But the more he shouted, the less convincing he sounded. His fury only revealed the ugliness Evelyn had long suspected lay beneath his polished exterior. "You're finished, Mr. Hayes," Officer Ramirez said firmly, his hand tightening on his cuffs. "We're placing you under arrest for suspected child endangerment and abuse. You have the right to remain silent. The clink of the handcuffs echoed louder than the billionaire's protests. Richard Hayes struggled, his voice frantic, his once commanding tone reduced to desperation. You can't do this. Do you know who I am? I'll have your jobs. I'll bury you all in court. But the officers didn't flinch. They led him toward the door, his robe dragging behind him, his threats growing weaker as they pushed him into the waiting police car. The door slammed shut, cutting off his voice at last. Inside the mansion, silence fell again, but this time it was a different kind of silence, not the suffocating, fearful one that had haunted its halls for so long, but one that felt like relief. Evelyn hugged Emma tightly, tears streaming down her face. It's over, sweetheart, she whispered. You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore. Emma clung to her, burying her face in her chest. Promise? Evelyn kissed the top of her head. I promise. Hours later, in a quiet room at the local police station, Evelyn sat beside Emma as a social worker spoke gently with the little girl. The room was warm and filled with soft light, a deliberate contrast to the cold, intimidating halls of the mansion. Emma's small voice wavered as she recounted more details, nights of fear, of silence, of secrets she had been too scared to share. Every word broke Evelyn's heart, but she stayed by her side, holding her hand, never letting go. The social worker nodded with empathy. You're very brave, Emma. Telling us the truth helps us make sure this never happens again. Emma glanced at Evelyn. Can she stay with me? I don't want to be alone. Evelyn squeezed her hand gently. I'm not going anywhere, baby. I'll stay with you for as long as you need me. The social worker gave Evelyn a grateful look. This little girl trusts you. Right now, you may be the safest person in her world. Evelyn felt tears welling in her eyes. She had always thought of herself as just a maid, someone who cleaned and cooked in the background of wealthy lives. But tonight, she had become something else, something far greater. A protector. A guardian. Meanwhile, Richard Hayes sat alone in a holding cell, his head in his hands. For years, his wealth and influence had shielded him from consequences. But now, stripped of his power and facing the weight of the law, he was nothing more than a broken man. His empire was crumbling, and the truth was no longer his to bury. Back at the station, Evelyn wrapped a blanket around Emma's shoulders and whispered, You did something amazing tonight, Emma. You told the truth, even though it was scary. That makes you stronger than you know. Emma leaned into her, her voice small but certain. I feel lighter. Like I don't have to hide anymore. Evelyn smiled through her tears. That's because the truth sets us free, baby. And now you're free. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself a small smile. It was fragile, but it was real. Later that morning, as the sun began to rise, Evelyn and Emma sat together by a window in the station. The first golden rays of light spilled across the sky, washing away the darkness of the night before. Evelyn held Emma close, watching the dawn. This is a new beginning, she whispered. For both of us. Emma's tiny hand found hers. Will you still be here tomorrow? Evelyn hugged her tighter. For as many tomorrows as you need me. And as the city woke around them, the truth that had once been buried deep inside the mansion's walls now stood in the light. It was raw, painful, and heartbreaking, but it was also the beginning of healing. The little girl had finally spoken. The monster had been unmasked. And in that moment, Evelyn knew that no matter what came next, Emma would never face her fears alone again. The weeks that followed Richard Hayes's arrest were some of the most difficult and transformative days of Emma's young life. The mansion, once her gilded prison, stood empty and lifeless, its silence a reminder of both the darkness she had endured and the strength she had found. Evelyn had refused to leave Emma's side. She accompanied her to every interview with detectives, every visit with the social worker, and every late-night nightmare that jolted the child awake. Evelyn became more than just a maid, she was Emma's anchor, her shield, her family. But there was still one step left. The truth had to be spoken in court. The day of the trial arrived with a weight that pressed against Evelyn's chest. The courthouse loomed tall and gray against the morning sky, its stone walls a symbol of justice but also of fear for a child who had already carried too much. Emma clung to Evelyn's hand as they walked through the wide doors. Her small body trembled, her eyes darting nervously at the sea of strangers in suits. Evelyn knelt down, holding both of her hands. "Sweetheart," she whispered, her voice gentle but steady, "I know this feels scary. But remember, you're not alone. I'm right here, every step of the way. All you have to do is tell the truth. That's your power." Emma nodded, her lips pressed tightly together. "Do you think they'll believe me?" Evelyn's heart ached at the question. She cupped Emma's face in her hands. "They will. Because you're brave, and your truth is stronger than his lies." Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Reporters lined the back, their pens scratching eagerly, while lawyers prepared their notes. Richard Hayes sat at the defense table, his once immaculate suit hanging loosely, his eyes dark with resentment. Gone was the powerful billionaire who commanded boardrooms, in his place sat a man desperate to regain control of a crumbling life. Evelyn and Emma sat quietly at the front, the girl clutching a small stuffed bunny she had insisted on bringing. Evelyn placed a steady hand on her shoulder, silently reminding her that she wasn't alone. When the judge entered and the proceedings began, the tension in the room thickened. Witnesses spoke, evidence was presented, but the moment everyone waited for was Emma's testimony. "Emma Hayes," the clerk called gently, "please take the stand." The room seemed to hold its breath as the little girl stood, her small steps echoing on the wooden floor. Evelyn gave her an encouraging nod, her eyes brimming with pride. Emma climbed onto the witness chair, her stuffed bunny tucked under one arm. The judge leaned forward kindly. "Emma, you're a very brave girl for being here today. Just tell the truth, in your own words. That's all we need." The prosecutor smiled gently. "Emma, can you tell us how you felt living in the mansion with your father?" Emma swallowed hard, her eyes flickering nervously toward the defense table. Richard Hayes stared at her, his jaw clenched. Evelyn caught her gaze and mouthed, "It's okay. I'm here." Emma turned back to the prosecutor, her voice soft but clear. "I was scared, a lot. At night, when no one else was around, he would come into my room. He said it was a secret. He said if I told, I'd be in trouble. But I didn't like it. I never liked it." Her words carried a power far beyond her years. The courtroom was silent, the weight of her truth filling every corner. Tears streamed down Evelyn's cheeks as she watched. This was the moment she had prayed for, that Emma would no longer carry her pain in silence. The prosecutor nodded gently. "And did you tell anyone what was happening?" Emma nodded, glancing at Evelyn. "I told Miss Evelyn. She believed me. She called the police to make it stop." All eyes shifted to Evelyn, who sat tall and steady, though her heart was breaking with both pride and sorrow. The prosecutor smiled softly. "Thank you, Emma. You've been very brave." When Emma finished her testimony, the judge spoke warmly. "You've done something very important today, young lady. You've helped us see the truth. You can step down now." Emma climbed down, rushing into Evelyn's waiting arms. Evelyn lifted her up, holding her close. "You did it, baby," she whispered through tears. "You told the world the truth." The defense tried to paint Richard Hayes as a misunderstood father, a victim of lies spun by a manipulative maid. But the evidence, the testimony, and the undeniable courage of a child spoke louder than any argument. After days of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. The courtroom was tense as the foreperson stood. On the charge of child abuse and endangerment, we find the defendant, Richard Hayes, guilty. The words rang out like a bell of justice. Evelyn closed her eyes, holding Emma tightly as relief washed over her. Richard Hayes slumped in his chair, his empire truly crumbled. He would no longer have power over Emma, or anyone else. In the months that followed, Emma began the slow journey of healing. Therapy sessions helped her put words to the fears she had carried, and with Evelyn by her side, she started to believe in safety again. The nightmares didn't vanish overnight, but whenever they came, Evelyn was there, soothing her with gentle lullabies, reminding her she was not alone. Evelyn herself found a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a maid in someone else's house, she was Emma's protector, her guardian, her chosen family. When social services asked where Emma wanted to live, her answer was immediate and unwavering. "With Miss Evelyn," she said. And so, Evelyn's small apartment became their new home. It wasn't filled with gold chandeliers or sprawling halls, but it was warm, safe, and filled with love. The laughter of a child soon replaced the silence of fear. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through a park, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, Emma looked up at Evelyn. "Do you think I'll ever forget?" Evelyn squeezed her hand gently. "You may never forget, sweetheart. But you'll get stronger every day. And one day, it won't hurt so much. It'll just be part of your story, not all of it." Emma nodded thoughtfully, then smiled faintly. "I think I'm already stronger, because of you." Tears pricked Evelyn's eyes, but she smiled back. "No, baby. You're strong because of you. You're the bravest girl I've ever met." Together, they watched the sun sink below the horizon, a symbol of endings and beginnings. Emma was no longer the girl silenced by fear. She was the girl who had spoken the truth. And Evelyn was no longer just a maid, she was the woman who had answered that truth with courage. Their journey had been born from pain, but it blossomed into love, hope, and healing. And as the stars began to appear in the night sky, Evelyn whispered a silent promise to herself: no matter what came next, she would stand by Emma's side. Because family isn't always the one you're born into, it's the one that chooses to fight for you, to love you, and to never let go.